Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. What are you sipping on, Holly?
This
What's
is a lavender lemonade with vodka that I made
Ooh,
with that 0 calorie lavender syrup I got. And it's
yes.
really tasty. I just made it just like lemonade, except I used the lavender syrup instead of sugar. And
And it worked out.
it works really good. So yeah, you can drink it with alcohol or without. It's delicious either way, I found out.
I'm using
So
a water flavored powder in this drink.
okay,
Oh,
what
those are good.
flavor, Ray?
It's flavored for water.
But
No,
I mean
what
like
flavor?
Yeah, water flavor.
oh it's water
Oh, you didn't
flavor.
put any fla
Okay.
it's just water. You had me there, 'cause
We're
I
both like,
flavor
what
water.
flavor?
I flavor my water sometimes, so I'm like, "Oh, what flavor
He's
do
like,
you
it's
use?"
water, girls. It's
Yeah.
water. um Holly, is that the stuff you bought at the market that we went to? Is that what you're talking about, or something else?
No, let me grab it real quick. It's
Okay,
like the Torani syrup, so I'll show it
grab
to you.
it. We will get to seahorses, guys. We've got a lot of seahorse talking to do. And I'm sorry we were late. We were just having discussion about what to talk about once we went live. But we're here now. All right.
So I
And
found this
cool.
at Marshall's. Like, that
Nice.
discount department store thing? So they had
Yep.
a whole shelf of all these 0 calorie flavored syrups. So I got like 6 of them. I got like coconut and strawberry, and there's oh, what else did I get? A whole bunch.
If you're going to sample them all, you're going to be hammered.
Well, they're
No, they're
not
not
liquor.
alcoholic.
They're not liquor.
Yeah, but
They're
you're using it for
flavor
liquor.
syrups.
Yeah,
So you put
she's
them in like whatever drink you want. Put them in like coffee, like they make. Like I think I got a caramel one too for like hot drinks and
I
for
was
ice
gonna say
cream and stuff. You put it
I
on your
love
ice cream, all kinds of stuff.
I love doing substitution stuff. Like I use Greek yogurt for a lot of things that take, cream
I
cheese or
do that
sour cream or
too.
whatever. And recently I have this Mediterranean salad. It's got like chickpeas. This is not a food show, guys. We're gonna get to seahorses,
Started
I
out that
promise.
way.
But we're just sharing, right?
hmm
Opening the chat. But yeah, I have this Mediterranean salad that my girlfriend at work loves, and I make it for me and her and my family, obviously. And I wanted to try to improve upon it, and so I ended up using, I'm gonna say it wrong, but a guy, is that how like this the syrup that's more natural. It's
hmm
not 0 calories or anything, but you use it in substitution for sugar,
hmm
syrup, or anything like that. You know what I'm talking about, Holly?
Um, yeah,
I'll
yeah,
grab it.
yeah.
I'll grab it.
I don't think it's called that, but yeah, I know what you're talking. Agave.
Agave. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. A guy.
yeah.
I can't, I'm not good
It's
with
a
names,
it's a
guys.
sugar syrup from a cactus, I believe.
Yeah, so it's still
Mhm.
sugar, but
Yeah,
it's more natural or
but it's
whatever.
different.
Anyways, it made the dish a little sweeter, but it
Mhm.
was so good. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
adding a touch of honey or something. Anyways, cool thing that we can have substitutions. Holly taught me when I went to California that you can drink and still, watch your figure, which I'm still not doing because I'm sipping on Pinot Noir. But I do often make cool drinks. We tried this on one of our events. We actually tried what was it? California Dreamtime. I told you guys I'm
Oh,
not good with
yeah,
names.
it was California Dreamin' Soda, which is a 0 calorie orange cream soda, and I was
Taste.
telling Kelly she wanted to look for some back in Indiana, but I think it's a California thing because it's a local brand. It's made here in Northern California, so I don't think they sell it other places.
I did
But
find
other
something
companies might make it and call it something else. It's a zero
right,
calorie orange cream soda, is what it is.
right, and I would say I did find a substitution. I'm not gonna butcher the name. once I find it, as I'm finding the what did you say it was? The
Oh,
syrup?
it's an orange cream
No,
soda.
no, 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 no.
Zero
What was the
calorie.
name of the syrup?
Oh, this syrup that I'm using.
No, no,
Oh, the
no.
one you did, agave.
Yes. Sorry.
Agave. Yeah,
Agave. Okay.
yeah.
When I go grab that to show you guys, I'll try to grab the orange drink that I got. But point is, you can find 0 calorie drinks to make good drinks. And Holly taught me that, and it's amazing. I did want to say, Fish Fam Links. Hi, Zen Ginger. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, everybody. And I would say, yes, thank you, Zen Ginger, for being a member for 17 months. I did want to mention the member shirts are supposed to be delivered tomorrow. So I'm so excited. Anybody who has gotten with
Yay.
me and contacted me with sizing and addresses, you're going to get your shirts. I'm really
I gotta
excited.
do that still. I'm not sure what
I
size
know.
I should use.
Well, I did get extras. So fear not if you haven't contacted me yet, still reach out to me because I definitely want to get these shirts out there. And I actually had an incident. I promise we're getting to Seahorses, but I had an incident recently where I contacted the company that's hosting the website that I'm trying to create. And it was another thing, like all things. And I realized that the pricing that I was under uh, tripled after the first year, right? So I'm switching hosting. So this doesn't matter to any of you. I'm just saying that very soon I've gotten serious. I know I've said this before, but now it's costing me money. So I've gotten serious about the website. Not only will we get the member shirts out there, but we're going to get the site going because I'm sick of screwing around with it and just letting it sit there. I really want to finish it, really want to get it going. So I'm on it, guys. I'm focused. Um,
So I have a question, Kelly. What kind of
yes.
shirts are they? Are they like the standard everybody t-shirt, or is it like the lady shaped t-shirts, or what kind are you doing?
So
I
I
don't know
have
what size.
So I have actually messed with samples and such in the past. And I went with lady sizes. I went with the very basic cheap t-shirts.
Mhm.
And then I've tried the medium grade, etc. And I found this brand. It is Gildan, however you say it. So like people are like, okay, that's, it's not a fancy brand, but they have this blend that's really soft, really nice, and it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just
I'm
not the straight
Googling.
down cut. It's not a lady cut. I
Okay.
didn't want to do that because I've got men too, right? Once the website's done and there are multiple t-shirts available, you will be able to order a female t-shirt, a male t-shirt with different designs. But for the member shirts, I had to go kind of streamline, right?
Okay.
Um, we can refine it later. But for this first batch, I just wanted to get them out there. So I did a shirt that I know is comfortable for anybody, and it will be just basic sizing. So if you're looking at sizing and you're trying to figure it out, I'm not good at explaining this, but
I'm trying to
uh,
look at your size chart so I can figure out.
I can do that. I can post a size chart. That would probably be easier. I can do that. I'll do
Yeah,
that
that'd be great. Then I could
because
kind of figure out.
like I like bulky t-shirts, so I order
Mhm.
extra large no matter what, right? And I mean, I'm not a little person, but I'm not huge, right? So
Yeah.
if that and then I'm actually wearing a shirt my daughter got me for I think a birthday. Says wine
Uh
is what does it say?
huh.
Wine is like just kidding. I have oh no wait. A day without wine is like just kidding. I have no idea because City Beach. That's what it says. Anyways, I do want to get these going, so I'm gonna get the member shirts out there. If you guys have complaints, you're like, hey, we should fine tune it. I'm there for it, right? I just want to get the shirts out, and then we'll go from there. And then when I get the site done, Bonnie, you said you want a shirt. What I'm talking about right now is like a member shirt because if you're a member on YouTube, I want to have a special shirt for people that contribute to the channel. But there will be multiple shirts available to purchase to support, if that makes sense. And you can always become a member, right? It's really easy. But sorry, I'm trying to read comments at the same time. Okay, so that being said, thank you, Zen Ginger, for supporting us and being our YouTube guru, helping us with all YouTube things and channel things. We really appreciate you. I'm gonna have to like make you a special shirt, I think. But yeah, I will grab the agave to show you guys in a second. But let's get to seahorses, shall we? I know Holly has a video to show us, but I want to start out with a chat question that was in our general chat on the Facebook group, Seahorse Whisperer Facebook group. And Younga asked, for the people using formalin to pre-treat or treat their seahorse fry, everything I read says they need a lot of ventilation. Where do you treat your seahorses? Outside, inside? What type of ventilation do you use? And Ray, why don't you start us off with your original thoughts on why that's not as important as people think it is?
For me, didn't matter anyway because I had a big double core heat recovery ventilator so that 24/7 the air is changing all the time in the house. But for the average person, I wouldn't be too concerned about it with the dilution factors involved. Just be careful when you're handling it. Wear gloves. Make sure you're not getting it on your skin. But when you stop and think about how many fish stores have been using this for how many decades, where they dump the formalin just in a container and they don't usually even bother measuring it. They just dump a bunch in there and then they throw their nets in there to sterilize them in between use. And so they've been around this this formalin treatment for their nets for an awful lot of years, especially the full timers. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone locally here out of all the stores here, uh, and that's I guess 11 stores. And because I was into the reef tanks and so on for so many years, I pretty well knew everybody that was working in all these stores at the time, and I don't know of anybody yet that's got cancer yet. Doesn't mean
Right.
that they won't, but it means that the incidence is fairly small. And I don't remember for sure what it's been an awful lot of years since I looked up on the NIH uh, for information on it once they started banning it. And I don't remember what the actual incidence was. I just recall that it was pretty small, the number of people that
But
were actually
but
getting
they started banning it because supposedly there were cancer causing ingredients. Is that
yeah,
Yeah,
okay?
it's
it's a
cancer
Just like
causing.
most of our
carcinogen.
medications. Okay. So
Don't
in
breathe
your
it. Don't
right.
inhale it. Wear gloves. But
Don't get it on, don't get
I
it on
used
your
it
skin.
fine.
Wait, Red, you say Ray? Don't put it what?
Getting it on your skin's worse than breathing it.
Okay. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. I remember using formalin and I was not that careful. And, you know, so far so good.
Well, maybe
But
that explains some things.
that's right.
Right.
Right. Okay, maybe,
You left,
but
you left it open for me.
I know I did. And I was kind of a mess before ever using formalin for the record. But yeah, no. And to be honest with you guys, when I first saw that question and I was trying to get Wine Wednesday going so I couldn't type anything in response, my first reaction was I thought he was talking about the seahorses because I just remember I was confusing things, granted, but I remember Dan just hammering into my head that with like 90% of the medications we use, we have to have really ventilated tanks for the seahorses. For instance, when I had to treat with triple sulfa and furon 2, It was like, make sure you have open-ended airlines. You have to have, that oxygenation going on. So I thought he was talking about the seahorses. It didn't even occur to me that he meant
For you.
people because I've been careless and I just never, I didn't have the big gloves or goggles or any of that. I'm saying you guys should for sure, but um yeah, the formalin that I always bought, I will say this too. I didn't buy like the I didn't buy it on Amazon. I didn't buy it prescription strength or, whatever. I bought it from a fish store in a bottle that was prepared. So I mean, I guess it never got on my skin because it was prepared that way, but yeah, I never had that concern. And I will tell you, I use formalin in multiple tanks in my house, multiple tanks in a house that is enclosed. So we can't open our windows. They're painted shut. I know that sounds insane. Don't ask me why we got this house. I wasn't very careful when I got it. Anyways, my point is it's a very enclosed house, so enclosed that when I had my reef tank, I had pH problems. And I literally had to run a skimmer airline outside of the house so that it could get fresh air coming in to help the tank with pH and through the skimmer. But yeah, I used formalin repeatedly in multiple tanks and never had a problem. I don't mean to broadcast that as any kind of advice because I'm not giving it. I'm just telling you what happened to me. But I mean, Ray, what did you say you had?
But the HRV,
Yeah, what is that?
it's a heat recovery ventilator. It's
Okay.
it's a big unit. Well, in my case, it's a double core, and it's basically like an air radiator. So
Okay.
you have a big 10-inch duct bringing air in from outside, and it goes through these two aluminum cores. But there's also air coming from inside the house going out, and it's going through these aluminum cores, but it's on the opposite side of the aluminum tubes that the incoming air is going. So it transfers the temperature from one to the other. So if you've got hot air coming in, cold air going out, then that cold air is going to warm up the hot air coming in, and vice versa. And it also, in so doing with that exchange there, it condenses water out of the air. So it's got a drying effect as well, and
Hmm.
has to have a tube on it going to a drain all the time. But basically, it's to get fresh air in all the time because when I was into the aquariums, I was in such a big way with about 1,000 gallons of water in the basement there,
Right.
and I ended up replacing all my windows and doors because they all started rotting out.
Oh,
Once I put that HRV in, I never had any more problem.
really?
Yeah,
So does that have to do with humidity then? I mean, I know I
yeah,
sound
it's
silly.
going to lower your humidity because of the exchange, the cold air and the hot air. It's going to condense the moisture in the air and precipitate it out.
Because man, that's something I would be interested in because I never had trouble with formalin, but I sure had trouble with humidity and wet floors with tanks everywhere and all that for
Well,
sure.
this is a pretty big unit though. Well,
Yeah.
you can get smaller ones, so it's all depending on what you need. But I went to the company that makes them, and I talked with an engineer there, and he got me to measure all the surface area of all the tanks combined, so that he could calculate with that surface area
How
and
much?
at the ambient temperature that I usually kept the house at, he could tell then what size I needed.
How cool.
So he did the calculations and come up with it, and so I bought this thing, and uh, as a matter of fact, it was just last week I just pulled it down off the ceiling in the basement. But it's a big
Interesting.
unit. It's about oh, I'm guessing 4 to 5 foot long,
Wow.
uh,
Well, so
18 inches deep and about 2 foot high. And then you've got these 8 and 10 inch tubes coming off. There's four tubes altogether, 2 10s and 2 8s. And
Well, so go ahead.
you have to have well, there's 2 tubes on one end of it that one is putting the fresh air out into the house. The other one is taking the stale air from the house and
Yeah.
putting it outside. And so at the other part for what goes outside, you've got one at that end or two at that end also. One of them bringing the air in, one exhausting it. So 4 big tubes. You need a lot of room.
I was going to say, it sounds like a really good thing for someone trying to go commercial or
Well, you
someone
can
with a
buy upright
facility.
ones that sit beside a furnace,
Okay.
and but it wasn't any good for me because I needed a double core according to this guy's calculations, and I
Gotcha.
trusted him for it. He wasn't making any money off me. Uh,
Right.
he was just basically I don't
Doing the
know.
math. He was doing the math.
Yeah, he would do the designing and so on for all these things, doing
Sure.
the calculations. Um, but so he just got paid. He never made anything for it. And I had the building that I had my business in also had uh, a heating and refrigeration business in it, and I was repairing all their vehicles. So he ordered this from the company, and I got it at his cost. So
Nice.
worked
Good to
out
have
great.
partnerships. But
Yep.
I just overall, I would love, like what you're talking about sounds amazing. It's not something I could probably put in my home.
Well, there's whole different kinds. You can just
I hear
Google
you.
heat recovery ventilator.
I will. I will. I will look it up and I will look into it. And anybody watching, you should too. But Holly, would you say with your use of formalin, did you ever like worry about it or
No,
okay, so you just used it.
I just used it. I did use gloves, like it said. I was careful with it, and I didn't inhale it. Although I have to tell you, Scott did just because he wanted to try it.
And what happened?
Nothing.
Right. I was going to say, actually, I'm trying to remember if you guys went back many, many Wine Wednesdays ago, I told you guys the story. I'm trying to remember if it was formalin
I think you
because,
have to use it a whole lot, like people who are in the medical industry, medical
mhm,
field that might use it a lot because I think it's used in like embalming, maybe.
okay,
And I think for people who work in a career where they use it all the time, it's more of a thing for them
gotcha.
than
Well,
just
I
us
was,
horse
what,
hobbyists.
what I was saying is, I just remember, again, I'd have to go back years ago on Wine Wednesday. Don't even try to find it, guys. I'll try to find it. But I was cleaning my house and my little shelf unit that I have all my Seahorse stuff on
Hmm.
got bumped. And I remember an entire container of something busting on the floor. I feel like it was formalin.
It
I
was.
really
I
do.
remember
Yeah.
you talking about that.
And
Yeah.
being scared because I was like,
And I
not
think Dan
only,
told you just air out the house
yeah,
and soak
yeah,
it up and yeah, dispose of it, carefully.
right.
You have
Don't
to
throw,
like
right.
let it air out.
But I just remember having that fear and thinking, well, because I instantly went to clean it up before I even asked you guys or asked Dan or any, I'm
Yeah.
like, I got to clean it up. This is a
Yeah.
chemical. It's
And
on my
then you
floor.
had rags and stuff with it on it. I think that
Yeah.
was what you
And
were.
I was just fearful, like, what do I do with the
Yeah.
rags? What do I, and my family, right? They're going to come
Yeah.
home and is this still in the air? And I was reassured, it's
Hmm.
okay. And I was fine. we're
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
so
Just air
far.
out the
And
house. I think he said to
yeah,
put like the rags like outside or something so they have
yeah,
fresh and let them air out before you
yep,
toss them or
yeah.
wash them or
And I
whatever.
remember doing that, sending them outside and just letting them dry, and then, but yeah. So I mean, it was a good question though, because I know that day that I spilled the bottle, I was freaking out, like
Yeah, yeah.
scared. So very good
But
question.
think about it. It's the same with like bleach and ammonia and any of these other
Yeah,
like household chemicals that you use. I mean, really, you should be careful with all that stuff. They're dangerous
absolutely,
too. It's the kind of same thing, I think.
absolutely. And just before we segue into Holly showing her video, um, do all medications and tank treatment chemicals, Ray, does it matter for the seahorses that they get open airline oxygenation?
I think it's
Like,
very important. Not every
Mhm.
single medication requires it, but there's so many. Um, I've never, with my memory, there's no way I was ever going to remember which ones didn't need it, so I just automatically did everything.
Well, I think
airline and
they need
everything.
it anyway. Like, even if I were to put them in just a tank of water, I'd want to put an airline in
Sure.
for them.
Yeah.
Sure, but I remember what, like when I was treating for the bacterial infection
Mhm.
in my first three adolescent seahorses. I remember that on the packaging for the medication, it said, make sure you have oxygenation. And then talking with Dan, I had my hospital tank, I had an airline. I'm like, is this good? And he was like, add some extra airlines
Mhm.
because it's just so important. What are you showing me, Dan or Ray?
That's my HRV.
Okay, I'll share that in the chat. Here we go.
I actually
All
like
right.
to use bubblers in my hospital tank,
Okay.
something that makes bubbles for them.
Anything that's bumping up on that surface and making the
Mhm.
air exchange possible works. Hey, Shyla, how are you doing? How's everything going with the adolescents now? I guess. Um, Tell us how you're doing. What's going on with you? Um, I don't. I have. I'll be honest. I haven't checked Facebook, but I told you last week, Shyla. I'm sending you a shirt. I don't, it's not food, it's not live. It'll get there. It might take a minute, but you need to reach out to me. I don't think you have. If you have, I'm sorry. Let me know. But I need just the size you want. That's it. And address to
And
send
a
it to.
mailing address, size and
Yeah,
mailing address.
that's it. But anyways, all right, Holly, what are you going to share with us tonight?
So I've been coming across in my Facebook memories lately. Um, Sadie just turned 4 years old a few weeks ago, like 4 weeks ago. So at this point, there's been videos and pictures showing up in my Facebook of her when she was 4 weeks old.
Nice.
And I always recognize her because she was always my biggest fry.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it got down to where I had 5 survivors. So it was easy to know who's who. So I found a video today of Sadie that's pretty cute and funny. And it reminded me that when she was a fry, she used to be the bully of the fry. 'Cause she was the biggest one, and she was always a food hog and always really active. So anyway, I thought I'd share this funny video with you guys.
All right.
Let me make
Share it
sure
up.
it's screwed up. Yep, it
And
is. All right.
And then
So let
after
me
that, guys, I will share what's going on in my tanks too. And then of course we're always open for questions. Anything you want to ask about seahorses, talk about, that's what we're here for. Go ahead, Holly.
All right. So here we go. Let me go to that tab. So there she is dragging one of her siblings around by his snout.
Love it. Love it.
He's trying desperately to get away, and she's just macking all the food in the meantime.
Yep.
It's like, okay, if I've got your face, you can't eat. All the food's for me.
So real quick while we're watching this though, Ray, when you're looking at Fry and one's got the other one by the snout like that, replay it, Holly. Just
Oh,
replay.
okay.
Do you think that he's trying or that she is trying to stop the other seahorse from eating, or is it just that they feel safer when hitched?
It's just a natural thing to grab onto anything, and it just
Yep.
so happens it was the mouth instead of the body or the tail.
That snout just happened to be there at the time.
But I love the little what do you call the netting you have in there, Holly?
Oh, that's gutter
Guard.
guard.
Gotcha. And that would have saved the snout. All right, what else you showing us?
Let's see what else I got. I think I got a couple more. Oh, there's another one of her. And I still use this same decoration in my tanks, but now it looks tiny next to the seahorses, but look how little they were here.
I know. It's crazy.
So little and cute.
How old was she there?
4 weeks.
Mm.
Yeah, this was 4 weeks. It says tomorrow the babies will be 4 weeks old. So
see, and yeah, I was gonna say that's right before they lose that stick figure. Right before they start eating
yeah,
frozen
you
mice
can
and start
tell
filling
she's
out.
starting to fill out. So
Yeah.
here's another one of them sitting on the gutter guard. But you can see she's the most filled out of anybody and way
Yeah.
bigger than the others. And she still is, like you saw her and you said, she's so big.
Yes,
She's
she
my
is.
big girl. But of
She
course,
was
at this
determined to
stage,
live.
I didn't know who she was and didn't know she was a girl. You know, she was just my biggest fry at the time.
Right.
But I figured it out later. You know, I kept her because she was the biggest one, and I sold the other 4.
Yep.
So that's how I know who she is. And this was about the time I started teaching them to eat frozen mysis too. I started out by feeding them bigger Artemia, not the fresh hatch, you know, like you first feed them. But I started enriching and feeding adult brine shrimp to them as well to get them used to eating bigger food.
Yep.
So you can see in my caption, it says I put slightly bigger food in and they seem to be liking it. So they kind of got used to eating a little bit bigger food. And then I started giving them the shaved mysis. And it took them a while. I want to say it took them maybe 2 weeks to learn to eat the frozen mysis. You know, I had to do it all day long every day. Basically,
Yeah.
like Dan said, every 2 hours, you know, try to, and I'd give them that before I gave them the live food in the morning, like their first feeding of the day when they were most hungry. I would do mostly the frozen mysis, and then I'd give them their regular live food. So just try to get them used to it and try to trick them into eating it. And it takes a while, but eventually they start catching on.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to come out and stop sharing. I think
Okay.
I don't have any more. There's baby Dandy when I first got.
Aww.
That's Dandy, and this was the little girl Brandy I got along with him.
Aww.
Yeah, so he's going on 6 now.
Gotcha.
All right, so I'm gonna stop the sharing and come back.
So she's how old now?
He'll be 6 in March.
He'll be, but how
Ray's
old is
birthday.
what?
On
That's
Ray's
right.
birthday.
That's right. She's got some
My
old
birthday's not in March.
It's March 1st, isn't it? Around March 1st?
Well, yeah.
February,
28th of
it's
February.
February 28th It's February 28th, right?
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
Ray's trying to be conspicuous. He
that's
doesn't want his
right.
birthday known.
It's right about the same time as Dandy, because I don't know exactly what day, of course, but it had to be in February or the beginning of March when he was born, based on when I got him. That he
By
was
the way,
5.
Holly and Kelly, did you see? Oh, Jesus, no. Heather. What's her last name?
Heilman,
Yep.
Heather
Heather
Heilman.
Hill. Did you
Yeah.
see the post that she had talking
No,
about?
what?
She's talking about this huge seahorse that she got from somebody that she'd
Oh,
helped.
yeah, the one that's 12 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the same house, I think I don't remember exactly what I posted, but basically it's like yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Big. Only 2 years old,
Yeah.
though. And
Where'd she get
Sadie's
it?
4. It was raised by the guy that she gave her seahorses to. Like
Huh.
she sold her seahorses to somebody who was breeding for a while, and he gave her some that he bred from the ones that she gave to him, and that was one of the ones.
Gotcha.
And then I told Scott about that, and he says, "Well, if you stretch out Sadie," he says, "she's probably a good 12 inches from tip to
Hmm.
tail."
Right.
So I don't
And,
know. I
and
haven't measured her, but she's big. But she's
I'm gonna
also
have
4 years old. So if this seahorse is only 2, it might be really big in a couple years.
that's how my first seahorse was. The very first erectus I ever got. He was huge, like so quick, and just kept growing. Right. For anybody new, don't worry. Most of them don't do that. Most of them stay, 7 inches or whatnot. But there are big ones out there. They're the leaders of the pack, the breeders. That's what a breeder looks for, is those big ones. I'm gonna have to reach out to Heather, see if she can come in here and talk to us about what she's doing lately. I thought she quit with
No,
seahorses.
she did. She has. She just has pets like I do.
Okay.
She just has a few.
Okay.
And
Well, I'd
she
still love to
did
see.
say, I know Mary Grace was looking for seahorses to buy because she lost some, sadly.
Oh,
And Heather said that Ocean Rider has a sale right now, 6 for $250.
oh, that's a good deal. That's a
Yeah,
really good
so if
deal.
anybody's looking, it might be time to jump in and check out Ocean
Yes.
Rider. Yeah.
Which, and with Ocean Rider, if you're not looking to breed,
Mhm.
I I don't know how to say it the proper way, but I've only ordered seahorses from Ocean Rider twice, but
Mhm.
those were never breeders. They
Mhm.
never gave me surprise fry. I know that Ocean Rider used to, back in the day when I first ordered my first pair from them, they used to make you agree not to breed them, right? It's
Mhm.
competition for them, whatever. But I'm just telling you that out of all the seahorses I've gotten from Ocean Rider, they never bred, even if I
Mhm.
got male and female. So if that's something you're not interested in, I would definitely,
Be a
because
good
Ocean Rider
source.
seahorses are quality. They're
Yeah.
good seahorses. I've heard of other people having them breed. I'm not saying they won't. It's not a
Yeah, because I
guarantee.
think Cheryl's
But
were. She got some from them, and
yeah.
hers were breeding. So.
And I can't remember the guy's name, but some guy got a bunch of really bright yellow sunburst, whatever they called them.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Um, they didn't stay sunburst. Don't buy for color,
Mhm.
guys. Don't ever buy for color. But if they have a deal on 6 seahorses for 250, oh my gosh, that's a really good deal for right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
about to go check it out. I don't need more seahorses, but I'm still like, it's such a good deal. I might have to buy them anyways. Kidding. But and Bonnie, you did say when you get your seahorses, you're going to get all same sex because you don't want fry.
And
That's
that's fine.
totally okay.
Yep.
Yeah, totally okay. Not a bad thing.
Mhm.
Everybody isn't crazy like me and doesn't want to deal with the fry, right? And
Mhm.
I will tell you this, we've already discussed that Kelly's a mess. She probably won't pull it off anyways. But even if I do, I'm in a different place than I was when I first started and first had Fry. When I first had Fry, I was crying over every one of them that I lost, right? Now I'm in a different place. I think more like a breeder. Not to say that I don't love every single one of them, but I'm going to be more focused on keeping the healthiest and biggest strong and surviving versus trying to save every little one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with not wanting to start on that journey, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a rough road. It's very labor intensive.
well, and Ray said, if my seahorses never breed, maybe anybody who does have Fry can
Yeah,
reach out
overnight.
to me. I would pay for the overnight shipping just because I
Mhm.
want Fry, right? I don't care if they're
Yeah.
yours or mine or whose. I just want to play with Fry again and raise Fry again and get back into
Mhm.
it. So if you did get seahorses and they did give you surprise Fry,
Mhm.
I would pay to overnight them, and then you're doing everything you can do to make sure they're in good hands and you've done the right thing and there's no guilt or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but anyways, all right, I got off track. Sorry. How Bonnie asked, how old are they when their pouches are clearly developed?
It varies really, but for the ones I raised, it seemed to be right about 5 to 6 months. But sometimes I know there's late ones, so I don't think it's for sure. Yeah, by the time they're probably 9 months to a year, I'd say you're pretty safe. But I think, like Ray was saying, it all depends on their development, how they were raised, and some will develop faster than others.
So
So
you usually buy seahorses when they're around 4 to 5 months old.
yeah,
And the males, you can tell they're males. You can tell the pouch, etc. But then the females, eh, So again,
sometimes one will turn into a male, and it's like that person was saying, it's not that a female's turning into a male, it's been a male all along, you just couldn't tell, it developed late.
If you
I
have
still,
enough seahorses to compare, then you can look at the anal fin placement.
yep,
I've
For a
heard that.
male that's late developing, that anal fin is going to be slightly forward compared to an actual female.
I agree. I've actually seen that in
I'd
practice. I've
have
seen
to
it.
see to compare, and I have a really hard time seeing that because they're so small, and I'm
Yeah.
so
The anal fin,
blind.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so so it'd be really hard for me. I'd have to see two next to each other to see the difference and see it enlarged, so that I could look at mine and see the difference.
Yep. Well, and that's another thing, guys. If you're ever in question, you can all if you can get a good picture, of at
Hmm.
different angles, then post it in the group, and someone like Ray or I can try to
Hmm.
help. Ray would be better, but I'm just saying I know what he's talking about. I've seen it in practice for sure. Um, Bonnie said the different species develop at different ages.
Yes.
And how can you talk about that a little bit more, Ray? Like why?
Oh, I don't know why. It's just
Nature.
You're supposed to have all the answers. No, I'm just kidding. But no, absolutely they do develop at different ages. Um, Watching certain species grow is like pulling teeth because they're so slow growing and they're just so slow acting and just their entire behavior is different. Whereas, oh, did I just get louder?
No,
Okay, sorry.
just
Um, every time I touch these AirPods, something happens. I keep forgetting. But anyways, yeah, I would say if you're first starting out, you're in the US, just stick with Erectus. It's easier to
mhm,
start with Erectus. More of us have more experience with Erectus to share with you. Um, I love combs. I love some of the, the Cuda. I love Barboria are my favorite. but starting out with them, and then coming in here, there wouldn't be as many people that have had the experience with them that could help, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyways, sorry, I got off track.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what do you, and she wanted to know, sometimes the juveniles they sell aren't sexed. So do you just buy the adult size?
I I just bought mine at they're normally sold or they were at the time, back when Alyssa's Seahorse Savvy, was doing seahorses. She was selling them at about 5 or 6 months, and I sold mine at the same age. And that was once I could figure out who was who. Once I
Yeah.
saw that way I could tell people what I had and what they would get. I wouldn't sell them until that point. So it probably depends on the breeder when they're selling them, because I mean they were eating frozen mysis at a younger age than that. But yeah, I couldn't sex them, and they ate all day long. I was still feeding them like between 4 and 6 meals a day at that age, up until they developed enough to where I could see who was male and who was female. So that's another thing to consider too. Like if they're younger, if they're closer to the 3 or 4 month age, they're still growing and developing. So you want to make sure you're feeding them probably several times a day still, I would think.
Sure. And I would also say that, again, Bonnie, don't worry. If you get seahorses young and they have fry, you just send them to me. That's it. That's the end of
There
that
you
story.
go. Yeah.
Um, but Shiloh wanted to know, her female has a dark marking on the area where males have a pouch. Is this an indication of anything?
I like Ray's answer.
What?
He says, yeah, it indicates she has a dark area.
Poor Sherry.
Some
But
have
no,
it and some don't. Not all females have that, but my females have that.
I was gonna say, what do you mean, Holly? Because I've never seen a female without that dark area.
I've heard people say that they don't have that.
They don't
Really?
So
all have
I
it.
know some of them don't.
Really? Wow. So
I
you
thought
guys
it
are,
was you that said that, but maybe it was somebody else.
no, all my
But yeah,
seahorses have that.
somebody has said that. And I might even, if I go look, I might even have one or two that don't. Because I always notice it on Sadie, but I think I may have one or two that don't have that.
So now I don't want to speak differently than what I've said in the past, because maybe I did say something, can't remember.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about the little dark
The dark
circle.
spot underneath,
Yeah.
yeah, underneath on their tail. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I
I
thought
don't,
it was something they all had, and then somebody told me no, they don't.
well, if it was me, I don't
I
remember
thought it
it.
was you, but
And I don't
maybe.
remember ever having a seahorse without it. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm trying to remember. But um, I'm glad that's a deal, Bonnie. But Ray, you're saying either way, they don't all have it.
No, they don't all have it. And I think with the reed eye, I've noticed there was more in the reed eye that didn't have it than the rectus.
I wonder if that's maybe where I'm getting confused, because I'm thinking strictly erectus, but who
Mhm.
knows? It doesn't matter. Um, I would still say that I've also had, like in my first four seahorses, one of the females that was very young had the dark spot, but it was different than the dark spot, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Different.
And that did turn into a male. And so I don't really have an answer for you. When they're under a year, it's really just hard to,
Yeah,
unless
I
they're
think
for
so.
sure a male, it's really difficult.
Mhm.
Right?
Did
You
I
gonna say
miss
something?
I
something?
would, I would
Zane's
say,
asking a question there, and I'm not sure what she's talking about.
Okay, wait. I have a notes page on my phone where I've written down the things I've asked or heard that I thought were important. When I actually start setting up the tank, I'm going to have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we're here for you. What's the best way to ask them? Should I send them on Facebook in the group or make a list and ask them on here or what? The best way is for you to come live, Zen. That's the best way, is for you to jump in Wine Wednesday. And even if you don't want to show your face, just voice them and we can discuss at end. And I can try to have like Cheryl and Dan here too, if possible, on the day that we set up. Other than that, um,
Either
really,
way works.
yeah,
I have
anyway
people
works.
send me questions in Messenger all the time still.
Yes, yes. And I would say I'm really bad at answering on Messenger just because I'm horrendously busy. But if you put something in the group, you know the key players, right? You might get answers from everybody under the sun, but you know if Ray responds or Holly
Mm-hmm.
responds or whatever, you know that's credible information for you to take to the bank. Um, but I really would love to have you in here. It would be so cool. That's what I've wanted since the day that I started Wine Wednesday. I've wanted someone who wants to set up a tank to come in and ask every question they can because that would be an amazing episode, right? I mean, I know it's not. Holly, you're laughing at me.
Look
What?
here, woman.
No. What?
She says, "What's
What's
the
the second
second
best
best?"
way? Okay. All
Hey,
right. All
Zen, what's
right.
the problem if you block the video and just have the microphone on? Then you should have no problem, and you get instant
You can be incognito.
discussions rather than having to type it out. Look at
Like
all the
Holly
finger
is right
wear you're
now.
going to say.
Yeah, I'm just a talking H. I'm a
But
talking
the
head.
other thing is, so I think another thing that Zen cares about is like I'm not saying Zen cares about it. One of the things that I care about is sharing what we share to many people, right?
Hmm.
So you ask the question of Holly, you ask the question of Ray, you message me on the side, or we have a phone call. That works. I get it. You don't want to come in the video. I'll quit pushing. But maybe you could write out your questions, like all of them,
Hmm.
and send me that. And
And we
then
can
we could
do it in
discuss
an
it live.
episode.
You don't even have to be here.
Yep.
But it's just the fact of someone new setting up. We don't even think that way anymore. Like I don't even consider the the fears that someone has in setting up for the first time because I'm like, oh, just throw them in, because I'm used to them.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know they're hardier than people realize. I know
Hmm.
what I have to do to keep them healthy,
Hmm.
and I can do that in any kind of situation. So it's really hard if someone says, "What size tank's best?" Well, how long have you been keeping them? If you're
Hmm.
brand new, bigger, better. I mean, like there's so many different answers to that question. So doing it
Yes.
in written form on like Facebook group would be hard because I've you if you go back years ago, I used to post these really long answers and it just
Mhm.
doesn't work because you can't cover everything. Whereas if you sent me a list of questions, we could discuss it here and you'd hear what each of us thinks and
Mhm.
why we think it and how it matters depending on different circumstances. If that makes sense. It's just easier
Yeah,
when we're
because
here
it's
as a community
different for
talking.
different people. I mean,
Sure.
there's different ways of doing things. So one
Yes.
way is not necessarily wrong. Yeah,
Right.
it might be good for this person and not another person.
Right. So I hope that answers. I think that might be our plan. If you just don't want to
Mhm.
come, I get it. No, I'm kidding. But write out like a really strenuous list of your questions, not just, hey, this is the tank I've got. What can I do to improve? Here's the filtration I'm planning. What can I do to improve? How much food should I have stored? Where should I buy my seahorse? Like
Mhm.
everything, write it out, and we'll spend a whole episode talking about it. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Zen. The pests, that those are a pain. I dealt with the bristle worms. But you know what? I found out now, if you don't want to do actually real rock, they sell artificial rock now that looks like real rock, and you get rocks without all the worries of real rocks.
Totally agree. I will say this. The reason I made that face is because in the 65-gallon tank, I actually had rock made for me by one of these companies. I wanted a specific scape. I wanted my rocks to look a certain way. I wanted them to be for seahorses. So, like, branching and
Yeah.
hitches and etc. Loved it when it was complete. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It took me forever to cycle because you got to remember, live rock is one thing. You got to worry about pests. Live
Mm-hmm.
rock that's been cured and been dried out and been treated and been whatever, it's still, I feel like it still has the essence of something inside of it.
Well, and you
Even though
don't
that doesn't
know.
make sense, I still feel like it does.
I do too, and the thing is because you don't know. Really. I
Right.
mean, someone might say, the store might say, "Oh yeah, this rock is, cured. It doesn't have any of this stuff.
Dried.
It's
Yeah.
just plain rock." And but who's to say they're not wrong? You know?
Right. But I'm also saying that on the good end, like the good stuff. Like, I think, if I'm not wrong, Zen wants a natural tank. So if you're wanting a natural tank, I hate to even broach this live, but sometimes to get the good, you're gonna have to risk some of the bad. I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting live rock. I would
Mhm.
steer clear from, do not do live rock.
Yeah,
But
but you can use real
recycled
rock.
rock,
Yeah.
rock that you bring in, live rock that you bring in, and maybe you've cured, and maybe you've dried, whatever, and then recycled. That is how I did it for a long time. Then I got onto K1 and started using artificial, and it works. I'm just giving the forewarning that if you try to use, like, you can cycle K1 in advance, do a completely artificial tank like Holly's. It can be beautiful. It can look cool and have coral and everything else that's fake and work. And you never have to worry about any of the pests. If
Mhm.
you want something in between, like me, I like macros, right? I like the
Mhm.
natural look. I like the rock. I like the scape. So in the 65-gallon, I had rock made. It was wonderful eventually, but it just took longer to cycle. It took
Mhm.
longer to, like, I couldn't have thrown in pods and everything been great. It didn't have the microfauna. It didn't have the, what do they call that, you guys? The eco, not eco, the biosphere, maybe. And
Mhm.
I'm not good with words, you guys know that. But it didn't have the basic
Mhm.
stuff that is built upon, because it was completely man-made. So I had to add stuff to make it start functioning as, Zen, tell me the word. Dang
Well,
it,
you
because I
can
can't think of the
always
word.
well, you can always not depend on it, like I do. If you
Right.
have all your biomedia in the sump and what's in the actual tank is just for decorations, you can pull that stuff out, switch it out anytime, like I do, and it's not going to affect the biological filtration because you're not depending on it for that. You have plenty of other surfaces elsewhere for your biofilter.
Right. Sorry, I'm going back through comments.
Uh,
Shyla said she asked questions both here and on the Facebook page. Ray and Holly are active. I don't see my name. I feel awful, guys. I'm going to try to get better.
hey,
I
I can't
really
get a hold
am.
of you
I'm sorry.
most of the time, Kelly.
I know. I know. I'm so sorry. I care about all of you. I really do. I just,
I know you're
uh,
busy. She works
17-year-old
hard.
twins, job. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Everything's a mess. Anyways, but that's a great comment, Shyla, because you're right. And Cheryl has some. health stuff and, family stuff. So we hope they're all coming back, but that's why you guys got to learn and get it together, because you're going to be us in about 20 years, right? But anyways, Shyla, you also said you have bristleworms in your tank because you want the natural environment. Holly did too for a long time, right? And there are horror stories about bristleworms and seahorses, but there are also multiple tanks that just
I
don't ever
never
have a problem.
Yeah, I never had them hurt a seahorse, and I had them in the tank, and they wanted to come out. When the seahorses ate, they'd come out looking for food too. I trapped them. I did all this different stuff to get, and I just got tired of dealing with them and a lot of the other problems of the natural tank display, like algae and all those different things. So that's what prompted me to ditch all that and go artificial.
Absolutely. And
Natural for most species have nothing to do with corals.
That's true
right,
because
right,
they live in the swamp. They're in
right. And
grasslands.
and rock even. Like, I mean, like,
Yeah,
is even, I mean, live rocks everywhere, but I'm just saying I wanted the rock just to make the tank look pretty, right? That was it. It's for
yeah,
me. It's not for them. It's
yeah. That was kind of
natural
my thing
environment
too.
for
I wanted
me.
to have the corals and I wanted to have all the different creatures. And so I had a lot of the different creatures, but some of the creatures turned out to be pests.
Right. Right. And she said she's mostly apprehensive. The real fear is bristleworms and aptasia. We just covered bristleworms. You
Mhm.
don't want them. They're bad.
Yeah.
But
They're
it's
also
not
not
freak
the
out
end of
and
the
bomb the
world.
tank, right? It's not the end of the world. Um, Aptasia. I've told you guys the story of my tank covered in aptasia, and seeing my big, huge, beautiful female try to get a piece of mysis from an aptasia. Like, she tried to snick it from it. It
Hmm.
landed in the aptasia, and she tried to snick it, and she got stung, and she jumped, if they can jump. She
Hmm.
shot back and went across the tank. You could tell she was going, wow. She was doing the,
Yeah.
yawning, freaking out, hiccuping, whatever.
Yeah. Try to spit
She
it
was
out,
not
probably.
happy. Well, no, she didn't get the food. She got stung in her snout.
Well, no, that's why I was saying she was probably trying to spit it out, the sting.
Oh yeah, yeah, probably. But I mean, she was fine. But she was a very large, very adult seahorse, right? So when you're starting out, you don't want to risk these adolescent seahorses that maybe don't have the immunity built up, maybe don't have the strength built up, whatever. So absolutely, this is stuff to avoid, but I don't think it should stop you from setting up your tank. I don't think it should be such a fear that you're like, I got to get this perfect, because that's me. I do the same thing. Just for the record, I'm not saying it to any of you. I'm saying it. I do the same thing. I'm like, I got to get this perfect. I can't do it until it's perfect. And then you just procrastinate and never do it, right?
Mhm.
And then you miss the joy of keeping seahorses. They're not as hard as you think.
And
The
there's a
things that we
solution to
talk
every
about to
problem.
avoid, that's it. There's a
If you
solution
run
to every
into
problem.
something, then there's a way to fix it.
And that's what we're here for. My 65-gallon that I just said was covered in aptasia is still running. It's not covered in aptasia. I figured it out, right? I mean, I won't go through the whole story because I've told it too many times. But if you're there and you need the help, we will tell the story again, because that's the point. We're here as a community to help each other through the hard times, through the good times, and don't be afraid to jump in and do it. Once you have that basic research that I know you've done, Zen, and if you want to do that list of questions, we'll cover everything in one episode just for you to feel good about your responses. And they will be different sometimes. I might
Mhm.
feel differently than Holly. That doesn't mean either of us is wrong. It just matters what you're trying to do. With
Mhm.
the natural thing, I did want to show you guys real quick just an example of making choices and having to deal with them. Let me share real quick. Okay. Oh, no, wrong thing. Sorry. So, oh, actually, let me back up before I share what I was going to say. Totally not only agree with Ray and Holly that this is just a male buffing up, uh, pouching up, trying to look awesome for the females and deflating or inflating his pouch. I don't believe he was pregnant, especially because, as we talked about, that little heart opening is so
Mhm.
open. Usually it gets closed up when they're pregnant. And yeah, I have not seen anything to indicate that he's pregnant. He's still dancing like he wants to be pregnant, and we'll see. You'll also notice, just for the record, that nuisance algae growing on my pretty algae in the background.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to talk about. That right there, that awful green shit in my beautiful red gorgeousness, right? My gorgonian's beautiful.
Yeah.
But, anyways, I had to deal with that, right? I have to deal with that. The picture I was going to show you, sorry, get through the mail here, is this. This
Mhm.
is these are my two favorite macroalgae. I've got the Halminia and the
Very pretty.
Codium. I love the Codium. The Codium is the green, and I think I have a better picture. If not, I'll post one later. But basically, it's this big bush of hitches. I mean, it's amazing. The seahorses love it. They love to hitch in it. They love to hunt in it. It's awesome. The Halaminia is not really great for seahorses. It's not really great for a tank because it's just this gorgeous, flowing, flopping, silky looking thing. But I love it, and that's what matters.
It is
So I
pretty.
yes, it's I got to post a video. But you
So
can
why
also
would
see,
you
guys.
say that it's not that great for their tank? Is it because it tries to float away? It's like free floating or hard to
So
anchor?
so first I let me back up and not say that it's I shouldn't have said it's not good for their tank. I should have said there's no benefit to the seahorses for it to be in the tank. It's not a hitching
Okay,
type
gotcha.
thing, right? They can't hitch on it. If they
Gotcha.
try to get in it, it's gonna slip right past
Fall
them.
apart or get away or
It's for
gotcha.
me.
It's
It's
just
for
pretty.
me, not them. But it's gorgeous. And this
It
type of
is pretty.
macroalgae does not grow nuisance algae, right? Because the
Well,
nuisance
there's a
algae can't grow
benefit.
on it. Right. Can't grow on it. It just stays looking pretty. Whereas you see this pretty red thing in the background has now nuisance hair algae on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point that I was actually going to make is I like natural, I like pretty, I want the macros.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know now I've been dealing with hydroids. I haven't actually fixed the problem because I don't have fry. So, again, because of the knowledge that I have, I
Mm-hmm.
know hydroids are bad. They're not good. They will sting my seahorses if I let them get out of control. If I have fry, they will kill the fry. A little teeny fry and a hydroid, no. So I've got to take care of it. I have not yet. I will let you know how when I do how I do it. But what I've been doing in the meantime is I cleared out all the nuisance algae, painstakingly picked it apart, took some of the red branching stuff out and had to, rinse it and get the nuisance algae off. Big pain in the butt.
I used to
Um,
have to do that. I'd pull it out and I'd put it in a coffee can filled with salt water on cleaning
yeah,
day, and I'd sit here like just like I'm sitting here right now and manually pick through it
yep.
and pull the bad algae out of the good algae.
So right. So again, there's like I want fry and I want macros. Those two don't really go well together. I've got to fix the hydroid problem before I do have fry, unless I get them from someone like Bonnie. But I got my beautiful tank. It didn't look really beautiful in there because I hadn't cleaned it out yet. But I'll try to post a picture later. It looks gorgeous right now. Like it's so freaking pretty that
Mhm.
I mean, people are like, my friends come and they're just, oh my god, seriously, you got seahorses and macros. That's what I
Take
want.
a picture.
I'm willing to do the work that I have to do to get that tank. Holly's not. Holly said, screw that shit. I just
Yeah.
want to, take.
When
So it
stuff
just all
gets
depends on what you
algae, it
want.
just goes to the bleach bucket.
And you can't do that with anything live. But
That's
you did
very
notice
true.
I saw Zen said earlier that she really just wants the gorgonians, like not really a bunch of coral or macros, but gorgonians. The gorgonians do not typically grow nuisance algae unless there's really a problem in a tank. You saw the gorgonia in my tank, the picture I just showed. I never had a problem with it. It's just great.
They don't want
I
to grow.
will tell you, get with me on the side, or this is something we can discuss once you give me your list of questions, because I would suggest certain gorgonians. Like if you liked the look of the one that I just posted, um, they're amazing. They're so hardy. They rarely shed, because shedding's another concern with gorgonians. When you get into the more stick branching types or the fans, they can be pretty. They will collect hair algae, right? So I can definitely answer any questions you have about any of it. I can recommend what ones I would put in a new tank, um, as far as gorgonians.
That sounds
And
like if you have a dog, you have to deal with dog hair.
right,
So
and that's it.
it's just
That's
part of what
it.
comes along with it.
Yeah. So I know we covered a lot, and I've been all over the place, but I really like the idea of a written out thing that we can cover and ask the questions and all answer them
Yeah.
together, because I think that would be better for my ADHD mind not jumping all over the place and talking about macros and then everything under the sun. We could stay focused and on task. So do that for me, Zen, and we'll have a
Yeah.
new tank episode. Ray, do you have anything else to say about any of this?
Nope.
Okay. How do you feel about rock in a tank? Just curious.
I've always used it.
Did you use rock how did you get your rock?
I had it shipped in from Florida back in the early 90s.
Did you have problems with it?
Nope,
Never?
never. The only
Okay.
problem I
Well,
had is when I didn't know what I was doing early on, and I ended up with all sorts of bubble algae and green hair algae. And then, so I starved the tank for 6 or 8 months. I don't remember how long now. And it all went away.
and this was without anything in the tank. You were just
Sorry?
Did you have fish in the tank?
Yeah, I had fish and I had corals.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't a seahorse tank, it was a reef. Okay. And that worked for you? Never had a problem again?
Nope, because then I knew it was a nutrient problem. If I can starve it and get rid of it, then I can make sure that don't put too much nutrient in it again, and I didn't have the problem anymore.
Okay, well then we all hate you because that never happens for any of us. No, I'm kidding. But what he just said is absolute truth. The difference is I can't do that in a macro tank. I can't. If I starve the tank, the macros will die, right? Unless I take them all out. But frankly, they're what probably brought nuisance algae in, and absolutely what brought the hydrates in, because there were certain macros I told you guys when I got them that I couldn't treat or rinse or quarantine. Like it, I mean, I could have quarantined them. I should have, but they weren't like the halomenia. If you dip a halomenia, or if you even rinse it in tap water, that thing's going to melt. I mean, it's going to melt. So there's just certain ones like that. Avoid them if you don't want to deal with it, because there are many macros, corals, gorgonians that you can dip, treat, quarantine, and never have a problem. It's just a time thing. I'm an impatient person. I wanted my pretty tank, right?
But
And now
even
I'm
with
paying the
macros,
price.
Kelly, you can keep the nutrients at the level where it's acceptable, and your macros will do okay, but nothing extra. it's the extra that the nuisance algae is going to feed on. See, if you've
I
got
agree with you.
if
Mhm.
you find that point where your macros are healthy or happy and getting what they need, anything more fuels that nuisance. And
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I was just making the point that the nuisance algae came in with the good macroalgae, right?
Mhm.
It was
I think
something I didn't
the
clean
spores are
enough.
probably there anyway.
Spores, right? Yeah,
And
Mhm.
so
it
that
is.
if
No,
the nutrients there, those spores develop, and then the more nutrition there is for them, the bigger the plague proportions.
well, and I will admit, 110%, guys. I wanted the macros to do well, so I'm doing stuff like to increase making them do better, right? Which doesn't fit with a seahorse tank and with avoiding nuisance algae. I knew there would be nuisance algae. I knew I would have to fix the problem. I just wanted to get these macros that had come from, wherever and been in a box and not had light. And then I'm rinsing them, most of them, and then I'm dipping some of them. I wanted them to get a boost. So I did, I'm giving them more nutrients. I'm doing everything I can to get them to grow. Again, sometimes that doesn't fit with a seahorse tank unless you know the point of balancing what you want on each end, if that makes sense. My seahorses are all fine. They're fine. But the tank kind of looks crappy until I clean it up. Then it looks gorgeous. Just depends on what you want. Everybody left me. But if it does become a problem, Ray's the one I'll ask on how I can improve water quality. But I would guess, Ray, it was your advice would be just do bigger water changes.
Well, it's a combination of taking care of what you're putting into the tank
Yeah,
and making sure that what you are putting in, you have the means to remove it. And if
yeah,
you don't have the means to remove it, well, you better get it. Uh, but it's also the husbandry. Um, some people are more diligent than others in cleaning their systems.
yeah.
And if you're not as diligent as somebody else, you're going to have more trouble. But it starts with input. Whatever you put in that tank, you got to be prepared to have some method of removing that nutrient. Now, some of it can be removed with the macros that you've got there, but if you're putting in more than the macros can handle, you've got to have another way. And if it's manual removal to get the stuff before it decays, or doing more vacuuming and larger water changes, whatever. Uh, you basically have to just decide what will work best for you and go ahead and tackle it till you accomplish what you need to do.
Gotcha.
I spent a long time when I first started. Uh, when I first had the nuisance algae, the bubbles and hair algae and that, I spent a long time trying to get rid of it, listening to other people tell me what to do. And when I finally decided it was a nutrient problem and starved it out, it saved me all that problem. So I
Mhm.
wasted a lot of time. Now, people were well meaning. It's just
Sure.
that, I guess they they didn't understand the nutrient problem in the water.
Sure.
And so everybody was looking for quick fixes like a cleanup crew that would eat it and that rather than
Oh yeah. No.
get the
Mhm.
stuff to stop. So it was a learning experience. And, the whole hobby is like that. But this was before I got into seahorses. So, um, but the
Right,
same
because
thing
that'd be
applies.
really difficult to starve a tank when you have seahorses, right? I mean,
No, it's not.
how?
If you got bristle worms, you can starve a tank and make
No,
sure
I'm
you
talking about nuisance algae. Nuisance algae.
know, but the
If you
nuisance algae and bristle worms
It's the
won't
same
be
problem.
there if you're doing
okay,
proper tank maintenance and have the proper equipment, whatever you need. It's a
Okay, but
combination of everything.
I agree. But if you find yourself in that situation, you can't just do like a starvation for 6 days when you have seahorses, because you still have to feed them what they need. They're
It's
still going to poop.
nutrient control. Like you got to put it less in it than what you were putting in it.
So do more water changes.
We'll feed the seahorses less, I think, is the part of it.
It starts with putting less food in, making
Okay.
sure that you're only putting in what they're going to need to eat, not what you think. Like a lot of people want to keep feeding them because they keep eating.
Yeah.
So that's no darn good, because they're just pushing the damn stuff out
Right.
so fast they
Right.
can't process it. And then that damn stuff's rotting in the tank, and your
Yep.
DO goes up. You know, so the number one thing is to control what you put into the tank.
I
Don't
agree.
put in anything more than what the tank needs. If you got macro, okay, so you need a little bit more for that purpose, but
Fine tune it. I get it. Fine tune it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
I
the
did
thing
go.
about
I did go
rock is
overboard
it
first.
traps stuff.
I
really
did
easily too.
Okay, we're all talking at the same time. I did go overboard at first, not only with feeding, but also like I still had supplements from my old macro tanks from my reef. I'm like a little dab of iron. I messed up, guys. So don't use my example as an example. I wanted to see the reds get red and the greens get green, and I was like on one. But Holly, what'd you say?
I was just saying, see, that's one of the things that I found too with having rocks in the tank was they have a lot of crevices and things where uneaten food can get stuck. And
Absolutely.
just because you have a cleanup crew, they're not going to find everything and they're not going to eat everything. They're like the
Sure.
seahorses, they're picky. And if the food's old, they don't want to eat it either. If there's something new to eat,
Right.
So you really can't rely on
Take
them.
a high-powered power head, take it in your hand, and blow all the rock work and let it come out. Your filters will pick up a lot of it, and then you can vacuum up once it does settle up.
Yes, I love that. And I do that actually. I use a power head and like
Yeah,
just blow my
stuff out.
rocks. Get all of it out. Harder now that I got the pretty macros that have attached. But I can still do it because they're attached, right? So again, I'm throwing my situation into this mix. I totally agree with everything Ray said. I'm just trying to figure it out for myself. And just like a newbie, I did some things to try to make the macros amazing, and now I'm dealing with the consequences. But my point is, I'm sharing this because you guys can see I'm not freaking out.
Yeah, you figure stuff
The
out and you
seahorses
fix
are
it.
fine. I mean, they're
Yeah.
fine. I will figure it out. It's still beautiful, and it will be even more beautiful once I get off my ass and do some things. But they're fine. They're fine. They're not, yeah. So that was my point. I did see, Shyla, you guys got a gorgeous macro red codium. I need pictures. I'm the macro girl. And Zen Ginger, I despise hair algae too. Oh God, it's the bane of my existence. But it's not the end of the world, right?
I just
Not the end
pick
of the
it
world.
out. Just pick it up by hand when I'm cleaning the tank if some's on, because I get some growing on my return nozzles because it's right under the light.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
on cleaning day, I just grab it in my fingers and pull it off. I'll take a
Yeah.
toothbrush and scrub it, and then I vacuum it up, when I'm doing my water change, and no big deal.
Easy peasy. Right.
Yeah.
Bonnie, you love sea fans. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sea fans. I'm saying when you
You might
first
have
start
to
your
clean up
seahorse
more.
tank, understand that would be the type of gorgonium that would collect hair algae. Much more easier than the big, thick trunked ones that I've displayed. Nothing wrong with them. You can still have them. Just if it's your first tank, maybe hold off on them. Figure out your nutrient import and export, as Ray's saying, and then add them. Is my
Or
thoughts.
just know it's something you're going to have to deal
Have
with.
to
It's
deal
going to
with.
be
Right.
part of your maintenance.
Shyla said, get your gorgonians from Alyssa. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Going with a vendor that you know and trust,
Mm-hmm.
that either is someone like Alyssa or someone that is promoting and selling clean macros. I know Algae Barn does.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have all the ones I wanted. Again, guys, I got my macros from Gulf Coast Ecosystem. They are from the ocean, and I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that if you don't want the risk of dealing with what I'm dealing with, because I did my best to deal with it, but I could have done better. And there are ways to navigate not having the problems I'm having.
But if you
I'm not
can't
freaking out about my
find the
problems.
ones you want anywhere else, then
Right,
and you know
right.
what you just have to decide what you're willing to deal with.
And I wouldn't suggest it for someone brand new. So what I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
is, for someone brand new to seahorses, either start with just seahorses and
Mm-hmm.
get to know them, get to know what they need, get to know their feeding habits, get to know how to make the tank run efficiently so that
Mm-hmm.
the rocks aren't getting any nuisance hair algae. Then add your gorgonians. You can
Mm-hmm.
buy the gorgonians and etc. already. Just keep
Mm-hmm.
them in a separate tank. Grow
Mm-hmm.
them in a separate tank while you're figuring out the nutrients and the needs of the seahorses. Then you'll be golden. You just add them, especially because that's kind of like quarantining. If you have a worry about aptasia, feed that tank that has those macros in it. The aptasia will come out, and then you can deal with it in a separate tank.
Mm-hmm.
And then add the clean macros that you've cleaned, or buy them clean, to the tank. All right, I think I'm done rambling on and on about this, but I've tried to read everything. But, anyways, Shyla said she's dealing with hair algae only because I don't do my weekly water changes on time and raising the fry in the parents' tank, which is very challenging. Um,
Yeah, she did it. They grew up in there,
I see less
so
growth
she's
after changing
successful.
back to my old salt and no
Mm-hmm.
cyano. That's a whole, that's a topic for a whole Wine Wednesday, just salt. I know some people are of the belief that there's no difference. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely believe there's a difference. They're adding things to certain salts to make
Mm-hmm.
a reef grow better or to, whatever. So I'm glad you figured that out. And we'll have to plan a Wine Wednesday around that. But we are hitting on the 10 o'clock time, guys. I'm sorry. But is there anything that I missed? Anything else we have to cover? I've got ideas now. We're going to go with doing a Wine Wednesday based on Zen Ginger's list of first time questions. We're going to do a Wine Wednesday based on what's the difference in salts. Anything else you guys have thoughts on or questions on, we can do a Wine Wednesday on. Trying to read
Nope.
what Bonnie said. But go ahead. We're good, Holly?
Yeah, I was just saying that all sounds good to me.
All right. Ray, we good?
We're good.
Ray's good. All right. Ray, I'm going to try to clean up my tank. Make you proud. All right. You guys, happy Wine Wednesday. We'll be back next week. Zen, reach out. Shyla, get me your size and address.
Always, he didn't say when.
Right.
Happy Wine